Okay, so we are now going to take a look at how to actually search the online resources that I would like you to look at for the final annotated bibliography. So I want to start with Academic Search Complete, which I did show you last week, but just to reiterate how this works. Also reacting, some of you seem to be still having some trouble with Boolean searching based on what you sent me for your modern topic, the worksheets you sent me. So I want to just again reinforce how you do Boolean. So let's go to databases, and I'm going to click on letter A, go to Academic Search Complete. And so Academic Search Complete is where you want to go for your two peer-reviewed articles. So that's the idea behind that. And so we want to find two peer-reviewed articles using Boolean. So in the search window, I'm going to put in coronavirus or COVID-19. Okay, so some of you are not quite getting the idea of the or, the parentheses. So this is why you're doing it. It's a simile, right? These are two words that mean basically the same thing. Coronavirus or COVID could be used interchangeably. It could be, airplane or jet. Okay, I mean, it's basically the same thing you're talking about, right? So it could be two different words for the same thing. It could be two different words for the same basic concept. You could put in girls or women, or boys or men. It's like this example, apples or oranges are two different kinds of fruit, right? So basically, you're using the or when you're linking things that are similar. Either they're exactly the same, just different terms, or they're basically the same concept. All right. So, and you're saying by doing that to the computer, articles about either of these things work for me, right? You wouldn't put completely different things. The idea is any of these things are similar, and I'm happy with articles that talk about either one of them. And then I'm going to put an and because I want more than just that. And then in quotes, I'm going to put college students. And some of you seem to be having problems with the quotes. The quotes should only be for a specific phrase, not for the entire search, but for a phrase like college students. Okay, the word order matters there, and those words have to be right next to each other. I wouldn't want an article that mentions Wesleyan College, and then 20 pages later it mentions students taking a biology class. That's not what I'm interested in, right? I want college students. Okay, so the quotes are saying these words have to come in this order with nothing intervening. All right, now I'll click on search. And we have 252. We've got quite a few to choose from. So what I would suggest you do to narrow things down is exactly what I told you to do with the books. If you click on, let's say, the first one here, the first one is communicating mental health support to college students during COVID-19. Right, and so it looks interesting. You got a little summary and abstract. That's all great. But the thing I want you to notice are the subject terms, okay? And that's exactly the same idea as when we're talking about the books and the subject headings. So leaving that search alone up there, you can then put in, let's put in the top, the first one's good, psychology of college students. And then you want to pick from the field, you want to pick subject, because that's the subject, not just everything. And then they also use the term COVID-19. And again, I'll do the same thing. I'll pick subject, click on search. And now we have 4. Okay, so we went from 252 to 4. In this case, it's a good thing because you only need 2 articles. But these 4 are all very precise. They all mention coronavirus or COVID. That's a given. But they also are specifically tagged as talking about the psychology of college students in this context. So you can see the first one, mental health support to college students during COVID-19, exploration of website messaging. So maybe it's text messages from counselors or mental health professionals helping students out. Another one about psychological stress for college students during COVID-19. Same with the third one, right? So basically the general idea is These are articles talking about the psychological stress that people in college are going through right now in the context of COVID. Now, remember also, they have to be a peer-reviewed article. There's two ways to go about doing that. You can go to the left and pick scholarly peer-reviewed, which is fine. And there's still 4 left, so they're all peer-reviewed. But I also want you to be able to do that without that aid. I want you to know what you need to do. If you're looking at an article and there are any citations, and this one has citations at the end, then you know it's peer-reviewed, right? So if there's a bibliography, if there's endnotes, if there's any kind of citations included, you have a peer-reviewed article and you don't have to worry about it any further. So you can use the little click on the box thing, but just so you know that the idea behind it, you can do that without even relying on that box to tell you. Okay, so that is Academic Search Complete. That's getting you your peer-reviewed scholarly articles. Okay, so now if you wanted to talk about your legislative information, there are 2 places to go for that. You can either go to CQ or you can go to Thomas. So I'm going to go to CQ. CQ stands for Congressional Quarterly, and that means the U.S. Congress. And so what you want to do here, you might want to start with Thomas because I think it's a good idea for everybody to be familiar with Thomas. So maybe start with Thomas. I'm not doing that here, but you might want to do that yourself when you're doing your work. And I'll explain in a minute. But let's take a look on CQ. I'm going to do another Boolean search for an example. I'll put in women, and let's do the idea of the military. Again, with the ors, I'm going to put in the different branches, right? I'll put in military or army or navy, or I'll put Air Force in quotes because, again, it's a phrase. It's not just one word like army or navy, or Marines, and I'll put in the Coast Guard. I'll do all the different branches of the service. And so you can see I've linked all the different services that are in the U.S. military. I've just used the actual term military, and I've linked them with or, because it's all basically the same concept, right? I'm interested in the U.S. military. Okay, so you can see there are a lot of results that come up. And some of them, interestingly, caught my eye. This one's from 1943 at the top, venereal disease in the armed forces. So that, also to point out to you that this has been around, CQ has been around actually since the 1800s. So you should only use articles that are within the last 10 years. So you're not going to use the 1943 one, but it's interesting that it goes that far back. You'll find articles from all over the place. Let's take a look. Let's see. Well, the most obvious one would be women in the military at the top, but that's 2009, so that's, at this point, it's more than 10 years old. So I'll go down and take a look at sexual assault in the military. And so here's an article talking about this topic, and you can see can the Pentagon stem the rise in incidents. So this would be an article you could take a look at. It goes over on the left-hand side, here's pending legislation about it, all this sort of information. Another interesting aspect to CQ is the pro-con, which is for every topic, and it's not as if somebody's pro-sexual assault, but in this case, the question is, should commanders retain authority over sexual assault cases? So probably what it's about is, should a military commander decide whether there's been a case of sexual assault, or should it go to some kind of a military tribunal, some kind of a court? But the idea is this is one way you can go. But the other way you can go, which I'll show you in the next video, is looking at Thomas. And Thomas, as I said, gives you a lot of information that is not going to be in CQ. So I'll pick up with that in just a moment.